Bruce. Margie, Bruce, welcome to the Natiso family. And this is going to be a brief interview on and how you're one of the language access champions here. So, Margie, give us a little bit background about yourself and what do you do?
A little bit about myself. Actually, I grew up in South America, in Colombia, and I was by choice, I became a designer, but then by chance, I became an interpreter for the school system here in Northern Virginia. One of the parent liaisons at my kids' school, she told me, I think you would do a great interpreter. And I had never been given that opportunity. So, well, I applied. I became an interpreter for the school system uh, by the end of 2018, and it has been great. After that, I actually did a professional training for interpreters, and I met Dr. Eva Stitt, who was like language access coordinator for the Department of Behavioral Health, also for Virginia Refugee Healing Partnership. And
Mm-hmm.
when I met her, I actually kept following her steps. That training took me to another training, a training of trainers, where I am actually one of the master trainers for those who would want to become behavioral health interpreters in both settings, in clinical settings and in educational settings. I have been training for about 4 years already, and it's great. The program is great. I encourage everyone who wants to learn more about how to become an effective interpreter. It's fabulous. It is extremely important, Felix, because we usually become interpreters just by chance. Like it's rare that you see that a person wants to, they say, oh, I really want to be an interpreter, and they go to college for that. So basically they tell you, you qualify for this, but we want to learn absolutely everything that is needed from an interpreter. For example, when should I clarify, right? Can I advocate? Is it okay for me to include gestures when I am interpreting? There are so many things that maybe we don't know. Do I know all the code of ethics? Do I know the standards? So while we're doing this training, it's not only that we're practicing how to do the interpretation, but what are the things that we should do if I realize that something has been omitted during my interpretation? What is the right thing to do? Also learning about the different roles that we have as interpreters. Also including, for example, the core professional values, and so much more. So I
Mm-hmm.
would love for everybody to get the opportunity to learn about this program. I always think that interpreters, we are problem solvers, but at the same time, when we are trying to solve these problems, right, in
Mm-hmm.
a situation that we are, or in a session, we're always thinking about how to do things the right way, what to say, if am I keeping the register. And so we, in a certain way, we can be lonely, but when we take these trainings, we know that we are not alone, that there is a huge network of interpreters just like us, and connecting, it it will make you feel grounded in a way that, there is much more than just going in and out that session. What are some ways that we communicate with the families?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, we provide interpreters.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one, right? There's thousands of sessions every school year. 80% of those sessions are done virtually, and then 20% in person. So interpreters, it's an everyday job, even sometimes weekends. Translated documents, we also have those. Language lines. Our website is in many, many languages.
So after you interpret, have you ever had, give me an example, have you ever had a parent says, oh, wow, I really understood what this IEP meeting is about? Have you ever had that experience?
It's more than an experience, it's a satisfaction,
Mm-hmm.
because there is a lot of like legal terms in those documents. Just the fact that they are understanding something that can be very complicated. It's It's very satisfying. Yes, I've had that experience. I even had one time the opportunity of a parent saying, "Can I always have you as my interpreter?" It is something beautiful because as interpreters, we also find it very rewarding.
You say, what kind of advice would you give a coordinator or administrators in the school
Mhm.
district or in the community about providing language access to these multilingual families? Just
Yeah.
continuing on what we're on our conversation right now.
Something that I would love to see done more is allowing interpreters to have a pre-session, kind of gifting them a couple of minutes just before the parents arrive, or even an email informing the interpreter what the meeting is going to be about. You know, if there is specific terminology that we should be aware of, if this is going to be a complicated uh, meeting, because sometimes it's not only an IEP, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes we have like the
Mhm.
regular annual IEP, but for example, local screenings. That's a meeting that sometimes requires, or there's a large team. Sometimes we even have doctors, or the nurse is included there because maybe there's a student that has multiple situations going on, maybe a learning disability, but maybe they also have
Mhm.
physical disabilities. So I would love for them to give us like a pre-session. Definitely, that will help for better outcomes.
I have another question here for you. You say, what are some of the cultural assets that our multilingual families bring to our schools?
We can actually celebrate the differences that we have between
Hmm.
cultures. It will help not only, teachers and staff members, but it will also help students to learn about other cultures. It helps them not only to feel comfortable and safe when they see those differences later in life. They will go to work, they will go to maybe another country just to visit for vacation. It's going to help them learn and be more confident about themselves and the interactions that they can have in the future, but not only in the future, but right there and then. So I think that it helps us to become more respectful and understand that cultures are beautiful. Learn how to work with interpreters.
Hmm.
Sometimes they are not aware that we would like to be introduced. uh it's in many cases I've seen that everybody goes around and they actually introduce everybody, but the interpreter is not really introduced during the meeting. So I would love for everybody, not only educators, but I would love for everybody to give interpreters the opportunity to become professionals, to be recognized. We don't
Hmm.
want to stay like in a comfortable place and just like, okay, this is everything I know and just stay there.
Hmm.
I encourage everyone to read more, learn about the cultures.
Hmm.
So practice makes progress. When you see progress, that makes you feel encouraged to be
Hmm.
even better. And then lastly, I would have to say, don't forget about self-care.
Yes.
Interpreters, we're
Hmm.
always, in some instances, we can be feel burnt out because we're kind of hyper vigilant all the time when we are doing these sessions, and when we're working hour after hour. We want to make sure that we're taking time for ourselves. When we care for ourselves, we're going to be able to care for others, and that's the main purpose.
Well, thank you very much. And
Okay.
thank you all Unitiso family. And que pasen muy buenas tardes. Adiós.